Hey guys, Simon here with another Shadows over Innistrad review. As we approach its release, we've realized that SOI will be a set of many firsts, one of which being the first ever Werewolf Planeswalker. Being a Werewolf Planeswalker, there of course comes a lot of design challenges. Luckily, Wizards has already shown great skill in developing flip or double-faced Planeswalkers in the past. So besides being the first furry Planeswalker, what can we expect from Arlinn Kord's actual card? Well, Arlinn Kord is a 3 loyalty Planeswalker that costs 2 generic, a single red, and a single green. Good old Gruul colors. Since she flips, her human side only has 2 abilities. Her +1, giving up to 1 target creature +2/+2, Vigilance, and Haste until end of turn. And a 0 ability, which puts a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Activating this 0 ability will also cause Arlinn Kord to flip. When flipped, she becomes Arlinn Embraced by the Moon and gains 3 different abilities. Her new +1 grants creatures you control +1/+1 and trample until end of turn. Her -1 causes Arlinn Embraced by the Moon to deal 3 damage to target creature or player. Using this ability will again transform her back into Arlinn Kord. And while she's Arlinn Embraced by the Moon, she gains access to an ultimate ability, which is -6. You get an emblem with, quote, "Creatures you control have haste and tap. This creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature or player," end quote. Okay, so those abilities were a mouthful and a little complicated to follow along. All that flipping nonsense. Let's break them down one by one, see if any are actually useful. So while in her human form, her +1 gives a single creature +2/+2 vigilance and haste. It's a very aggressive ability, although the lack of trample makes it a little more situational. Perhaps a tad more defensive than offensive, but still aggressive all the same. This ability is really dependent on the state of the board. Not only do you have to actually have another creature out, or play it with Arlinn Kord, but that creature would have to best your opponent's board with the +2/+2, which may not always be the case. I feel like it's a win more ability, only really good when you're in a favorable position. It's not bad, just situational. Next we have her 0 ability, her trump card. Put a 2/2 green wolf into play and flip her. First, let's look at the ability without the flip. It's a standard token generator for a Planeswalker. Reliable, decently statted, costs 0 loyalty, and leaves Arlinn Kord with some protection. Nothing fancy, but it gets the job done. If you already have a creature out, you may consider using her +1 since it also gives vigilance, meaning you won't lose that protection, but I'd argue to say that everyone playing this card will always use this 0 ability first. That's because when you use it, she flips to Arlinn Embraced by the Moon, and things get a lot more interesting. After she flips, and on your next turn, since you can't use her double-faced abilities twice per turn, you're given a bunch of different options to choose from. Again, her +1 is a very aggressive ability. It's basically a miniature overrun. This time, they all get trample but lose vigilance, making this actually more aggressive than her human +1. I feel like this and her other +1 are 2 sides of the same coin. They both do the same thing, but in different ways. This means that Arlinn Embraced by the Moon's +1 is another win more ability. You need to have a pretty sizable board if you expect to straight up win with this ability, but thanks to the tokens created by Arlinn Kord's 0, it at least becomes a viable strategy. Next we have an actual -1, the method which transforms this werewolf back into her human form. Yeah, I know, her creature subtype is still Arlinn, even when she's a werewolf. But, for the sake of discussion, I'm just gonna keep calling her a werewolf. This ability causes Arlinn Embraced by the Moon to lightning bolt a creature or player for 3 damage. She then flips. So, dealing 3 damage to a creature or player. This is like another form of protection for a Planeswalker. Only this time, instead of merely blocking damage, it can potentially destroy a creature altogether, which is a much better deal. Adding a lightning bolt onto any Planeswalker is really good. For only a loyalty counter, you get some decent removal. Only downside is, it may be too desirable to use. What can I possibly mean by that? Well, remember, this removes loyalty counters and flips her back to Arlinn Kord, meaning you're still likely to use her 0 ability if you want to continue to wreck your opponent's board. Constantly flipping Arlinn will fatigue her counters quickly, and since she only has 3, it can get tricky. The art of this Planeswalker is in managing her counters while managing your opponent's creatures, and providing her with critical protection. If you ever want to get off a game-changing overrun, you have to be smart when you decide to flip her. And lastly, let's look at her Wolf Form's ultimate. You get an emblem which grants all your creatures haste and allows them to fight. Fighting is when a creature deals its damage to a target without actually attacking or blocking. Although this emblem is even better than fighting because your opponent's creatures won't deal their damage back. Although keep in mind, you have to tap your creatures, so it's as if they attacked. Again, this ability is really dependent on your board state. It's useless if you only have a few creatures out. Luckily, the token wolves combined with the normally aggressive creatures of red and green means you probably won't run into this issue. It turns all the creatures you do have into spells essentially, meaning you can pick and choose damage and always come out on top. It's less of a win condition than we've seen in other Planeswalkers, but it fits the theme of Arlinn Kord. So what do I think of this Planeswalker? Well, overall, she's very solid and brings a unique feel to the Planeswalkers of SOI. In a deck, I feel like she's gonna need a lot of support and aggression behind her to make her abilities work. But so long as she protects herself and the player manages her counters appropriately, she can be really strong. This is one of the few Planeswalkers that I'd say takes some time to master her abilities in the most efficient way possible. A Planeswalker with skill. I never thought I'd see the day. Anyway, I do have one problem with Arlinn Kord, the fact that she isn't really a werewolf, nor does she interact with her kind in any way. I understand that making her subcreature type werewolf may have been awkward, and giving her an ability that, let's say, transforms all your werewolves would have made her too niche, but I would have liked some kind of synergy other than pure aggression and creating wolves. This feels more like a Garrett card than the first ever Werewolf Planeswalker, but that's just my opinion. And I want to know your own opinions in the comments below. Do you like Arlinn Kord? How do you expect to use this Planeswalker in your decks? Let me know in the comments. In any case, that's gonna do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, consider giving it a like and subbing to the channel. It goes a long way in supporting future content. You can also support this channel by becoming a patron on Patreon and finding me on other social media outlets. Find links to those in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching and I'll see you next time.